Hi, everybody. Okay, so we are at 1 a.m. in the morning on August 19th, 2026. And let's make sure that we are on. And we are. And I think you can hear me, right? Yeah. Okay. So was trying to get on around 11. It didn't work out. It didn't work out, which is kind of good news because so much is happening behind the scenes. So much evidence is being shared and learned learned because, um, you have to absolutely, these evil people, they don't operate like ethical people. It's all about deception. And deception, um, even though they need their reputation, that's why they like to give each other so many awards and pats on the back and everything, and put it in the paper. Reputation is their currency because without fooling you, fooling me, um, then they can't deceive. They can't deceive. You know, it's all about opposites, right? It's like they have to have this um, award winning reputation. Seraldi, remember they gave him an award, just attorney of the month or something, or of the year or whatever. And here he is taking women, having his really trafficked women from their captors and having his way with them and then returning them to their captors. And they're giving him an award. This is what I'm saying. There is no deception without this false um, reputation. And that's what we see all through this case. All through the case is the false, a false reputation, a false um, foolery, a foolery, you know, and the whole thing is just one big deception. And if they, it's almost like a cult they belong to or something. And this is their currency, um, is their foolery, you know, because it's just one deception after the other. And that's why when you get the evidence, you really have to go through it carefully, because it's uh, a foolery, right? It's foolery. They look at Justin Underwood. He's just up to no good. He's just all about foolery and messing with El Pasoans at the most difficult time. When their whole community was attacked, um, a bloody mass shooting, and he is tampering and deceiving and creating false recordings of it, or at least um, putting the tampered audios into the case, right? To pollute the case, to go after and target the whistleblowers and attack them. Um, there, the case couldn't go to trial because he was tampering and obstructing justice and, uh, up to no good with this foolery, right? Making the pain of the whole bloody Walmart mass shooting even worse. I can't, 6 years, so many people were so sick and tired of the whole case because it was never going anywhere except for to the open checkbook, right? To the open checkbook, not nickel and diming it, but charging the taxpayers loads of money. And really, uh, it really is a crime over a crime over a crime because of the exploitation, um, the extortion of it, the obstruction of justice of it, the tampering of it. At the worst times to all these victims' families. And for what? For Beto O'Rourke to move forward in the Democratic primary to get the nomination to be able to run for president of the United States against uh, Donald Trump, President Trump, to smear President Trump, to sabotage his reelection, because when you look at the evidence and you take out the foolery, that's what you get, a political operation to lift his candidate was Beto O'Rourke against President Trump. And why were they willing to go to this level? That's what we're going to talk about today. That's what we're going to talk about today. So we are on 2,200 and let's make sure I get the number right. I want to say 2,207. Yep. 2,207 days since Richard was forcibly removed from his barracks room. They were willing to do that, you see, because he was a whistleblower. He blew the whistle off their entire operation. And we're going to talk about that today. Richard Halliday's my son. He was forcibly removed from his barracks room because he was a whistleblower, distinguished honor graduate, a sparkling, clean whistleblower, a absolutely reliable source, guidon bearer. And he was taken downstairs to the arms room, a restricted area, but not to a prime suspect who's a platoon leader. He had a key. That's Dallas Hart with his family, Leilani Hart, a convicted criminal, and former CID agent Tavita Nusa, and Solomon Nusa, mortuary operations. And others, because this was an operation, right? It was a code red operation. Because even though they blocked Richard's reports with the help of Connell Wetton, and Connell Wetton is the one that made sure they knew who was whistleblowing, because Connell Wetton leaked Richard's identity to the cartel. We have that confirmed. He's the one putting a target on our son's back so that they could take him down to the arms room and they could take his life, and then they can have arrangements and the connections to steal his body off of Fort Bliss and traffic his body to Mexico for disposal. And then, as DES Thomas Kane confirmed, to illegally make an order, no expense spared, to renovate the arms room and destroy evidence and not follow protocol. So, and if you have information about being there and seeing them renovate that arms room, please let us know. Please let us know. You can call our hotline, 941-677-0060. So, why would they do this? A Walmart mass shooting, a code red against a stellar soldier? Why would they do it? Well, it starts with the Golden Triangle and is all about the black gold, right? The Golden Triangle to the black gold. So, over 100 years ago, um, the Mormons went to Chihuahua, Mexico, right over the border. They didn't go far. They didn't want to totally leave the United States. They just wanted to go over the border. Why? Because it became illegal to practice polygamy in the United States, even though not all of the polygamists left the United States. They operate in deception. But a group went over to Chihuahua, where in Mexico you can practice polygamy, meaning more than one spouse, right? And really, in their case, more than one wife. And they had large families. And the one that everyone knows in the United States is the Romneys. And it is really, I don't know if it's a coincidence. It's really strange that the Romneys now are intertwined in the Charlie Kirk case. But the Romney family with the Connell, the Wetton family, and of course the Hatch, remember, um, the Congressman or Senator Hatch, um, and many others that you would absolutely know, um, have this connection to Chihuahua, Mexico, in the Golden Triangle. And I put that up. Let me put that up here while I'm talking. I think that will really help. So here's the Golden Triangle, right? It's right here. Here's El Paso, Fort Bliss. Here's Texas, right? New Mexico. Arizona is off the map a little bit here. Arizona's over here in California. So California, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas. These are the states here. This map doesn't get the whole thing, but here's New Mexico, Texas, Arizona, California. We're really focusing on this yellow triangle. It's Chihuahua, Sinaloa, Durango. That is the yellow triangle, the golden triangle, the golden triangle. And that's where these Mormons settled, in these colonies. And they've been there over 100 years. And they had big families, so they grew. And they have even admitted to alliances with the cartels. This is not me saying it. And there's been some problems with the cartels, as we know through the LeBron death shooting. Um, but it's not as you seem, because they operate in deception, and what they pro- project out is a reputation, a false reputation, pretty pictures reputation. Um, some of them don't even say they're LDS. Some of them will say they're just Christian, and they're not Christian because they are Mormon. But they operate in deception. And Mormonism is not Christianity because they do not believe in the Apostles' Creed and the Nicene Creed, the Athanasius Creed, the Trinity. They do not believe in the Trinity. So that means they're not baptized in the Trinity. So they're not Christians because the sign of the covenant of Christianity is baptism in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Ghost. So, I'm not saying they have to be Christian. I'm saying they're not Christian. They're Mormons. And this Mormon Mafia group operate in deception. And they will infiltrate. And they will infiltrate in our intelligence agencies. They will infiltrate in our government um, institutions. Which, you can say, well, is that a bad thing? It is a bad thing if they are not loyal to their oath of office. Then it's a very bad thing because then it's a national security risk, a national security breach. And if they have alternative, really alternative, like criminal alternative motives for joining the intelligence community, the military community, the government institutions community, if they have other motives and those other motives are criminal, and in this case, they are terroristic, they are cartel terroristic motives, then it's not okay, right? Then it's not okay if their motive is to um, block reports of whistleblowers like Richard, like Connell Wetton did, to breach their oath of office because they are protecting the crime that whistleblowers are reporting, like Richard. And so they're going really out of their way. Thank you, Anicia, for coming on. Your love and your prayers so late too. Um, but these Mormon Mafia, they're loyal to the crime. And the only way that they are valuable to the loyalty to the crime, right, to cover up the crime, to participate in the crime, to further the crime, to grow the crime, to stop any scrutiny into their criminal acts, they have to have a reputation. They have to be dealing in foolery. I'm a CIA agent. I'm an FBI agent. I'm an ATF agent. But I'll go over to Mario Campos into her Fiscalia, and I will carry my fully automatic M4s and conduct illegal, unauthorized operations within Mexico without any consideration to the breach of my oath to the United States, and we're going to traffic or protect traffickers or scope out the best way to go with my drone so that the traffickers won't get caught. I'll be the eyes over them. And they are absolutely engaged in major crime. And the biggest one that is connected to the likes of Beto O'Rourke's father-in-law, and Beto O'Rourke, of course, William Sanders with Paul Foster and Woody Hunt, is this oil theft pipeline network. The oil theft. And what it takes to steal and transport and sell millions and millions, if not billions of barrels of oil and different fuel, the infrastructure, and to use taxpayers' infrastructure like the military. So they're going to become generals and colonels and platoon leaders so that they can use the very well funded, we give them everything military, and use those resources to do their criminal acts, their trafficking, the fuel trafficking, the weapons. Because if you're stealing fuel in the mass that they are, and even a little bit, you need weapons for protection. You need your own little army. You need attack dogs for whistleblowers or compromisers. So, especially on the military base, you need um, those that bring in 14-year-old girls, 12-year-old girls, those that will bring in the drugs and everything to compromise the soldiers. Richard would have none of it. And that's what made him very dangerous to them, because he was willing to blow the whistle and he was a stellar soldier, not willing to be compromised. And it's for the oil, because when you look at this map here, what do you see? You see the Delaware Basin surrounded by the Premium Basin. It's the largest oil field in the United States, maybe in North America even. And I need to check that out, but it is a huge oil field. That's the point of it, because Texas is a huge state. And if you have, remember White Sands, and then right above here, you have Zorro Ranch, because you have William Sanders being part of Western Refinery, being sued with Paul Foster and the Jetsons in 2011. They were all being sued. Okay. For what? For fuel theft. For fuel theft. And these individuals, live in $9 million houses. They have their own planes. And they're engaged in huge fuel theft. And they live off of illicit gains. And in order to do that, they have to fool everybody. Oh, I'm going to donate some. I'm a philanthropist. Don't you know it? I'm a philanthropist. And then they are the biggest criminals. Their reputation is their currency. And they have been caught in the biggest crimes with the shell companies, or even using the sports and all of that for money laundering. They've been caught in the watchical fiscal, which is a sophisticated fuel theft, so that they can avoid paying any kind of taxes. They want to use your tax money for their benefit, but they don't want to pay taxes. And now, because they have a grip on El Paso, they've got the mayor, the dirty mayor, in their pocket to raise the property taxes. Yet all the while they're engaged in fuel theft and all the trafficking that goes with that. Because then you have to have guns, and you have to have compromised people. So then you bring in the drugs, and you bring in the children and the women, um, and then you have to invest your money, your dirty money, somewhere after you've laundered it. And why not in UTEP? Why not in Texas Tech University Health Science Center? Why not increase your reputation as a philanthropist, right? Of foolery. It's all foolery, because all of them are up to no good. They're up to no good. And they're part of Justin Underwood. They're part of um, Jeffrey Epstein. This is who Bill Sanders. It was not an anomaly that he bought his ranch at the same time as Jeffrey Epstein in New Mexico, and sold it at the same time years later, 1990 through 2019. That's not a coincidence. And huge pieces of land. Jeffrey Epstein's was 10,000 acres, 7,500 that he bought, and 2,500 that he leased. And where does it sit? Right here by the Delaware and Premium basins. Right, you know, and of course, Carlsbad is right in the Delaware basin, and that's where um, Maxwell Jensen just got caught setting up his own little oil theft storage areas. And who is like the king of storage? So is William Sanders, Beto O'Rourke's father. But he was also with Western Refining. He's a huge investor in fuel, along with Jeffrey Epstein, and especially in Venezuelan fuel, you know, playing those markets, playing those markets. So, absolutely, the group that targeted Richard and conducted a code red to take his life is connected to this group, this golden triangle, this Mormon Mafia. And I should have wrote the Mormon Mafia in the golden triangle, the Mormon Mafia. Yeah. And they're double or dual citizens, right? They're dual citizens for the most part, bilingual for the most part. And so they are very, if they can keep their reputation so that they could do all the foolery on us, then they can deceive us and exploit and steal and get very, very violent, because there's been a lot of violence with this whole trafficking and the fuel theft. And I hope that makes sense today, because that is really important going forward. This Mormon Mafia and the background that they have and what they're after, and that they operate in deception. So you have to be really careful. Do I trust them? No way. Oh yeah, and here it is. Just so you know, it's not me. That this has a lot of receipts, and this is a book that was even written, and there's others, but this one's called The Darker Side of Virtue. Okay, The Darker Side of Virtue, Corruption, Scandal, and the Mormon Empire. So this is not anything new that I'm just calling out. This has been a long drawn out battle. And you know um how far they're willing to go for deception, corruption, obstruction. Seems pretty far. They'll go pretty far, especially when it comes to attacking President Trump. And why do they do that? Because they need to get into the government system in order to block any kind of investigation into them. They want uh, someone they know as prosecutor, right? Or they themselves. They want to operate in impunity. And they operate in deception. And I can't say that enough. So, so thank you so much. I hope that you got the motive. The motive: billions of barrels of stolen fuel. Who knows how much they've stolen? It's immense. So please share that information, and thank you so much. And I will be back tomorrow, God willing. Thank you so much. Bye bye.